The moment you stop negotiating with your weakness, your life changes forever. Stop negotiating with weakness. There comes a moment in every life when the real battle is revealed. Not the battle against people, not the battle against circumstances, but the quiet, daily battle against the part of you that wants comfort over courage, ease over effort, excuses over execution. That battle happens in silence. No audience, no applause. Just you, standing at the edge of your potential, deciding whether today you will rise or retreat. Weakness does not arrive as failure. It arrives as permission. Permission to delay, permission to doubt, permission to negotiate with the standards you once swore you would never lower. And the tragedy is this: most people do not lose their dreams in dramatic collapse. They slowly talk themselves out of them, one reasonable excuse at a time. Dale Carnegie understood something most never grasp. Human beings are not defeated by lack of talent. They are defeated by lack of inner command. The world does not need more motivation. It needs more decision. Because motivation fades, mood fluctuates, emotion lies. But a decision made once and honored daily builds character, and character builds destiny. Look at Edison. Thousands of failures, endless ridicule, financial ruin staring him in the face. Weakness whispered constantly, "Stop, this is enough. You've proven your intelligence." But Edison did not debate with doubt. He worked again and again and again. Not because he felt confident, but because quitting was no longer an option he allowed himself to consider. This is the difference. Weak people ask, "How do I feel?" Strong people ask, "What is required?" Strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It shows up early, stays late, and leaves quietly. When you stop negotiating with weakness, you stop asking for permission to become who you were meant to be. You begin to understand that discipline is not punishment, it is protection. Protection from distraction, protection from regret, protection from the future pain of knowing you could have done more. The mind is a courtroom. Weakness is a clever lawyer. It presents emotional evidence, selective memories, and convincing arguments for delay. Strength is the judge. It listens once, then delivers a final verdict. And once the verdict is given, the case is closed. Belief is born here. Not belief as hope, but belief as alignment. You stop saying, "I hope I succeed," and start living as someone who has already decided not to fail. Clarity sharpens. You stop chasing everything and commit to something. Vision replaces noise. Henry Ford was mocked for believing ordinary people deserved automobiles. Experts laughed, investors doubted. Weakness offered him safety. But Ford saw a future before the world had language for it. And once a man truly sees, he cannot unsee. Vision is dangerous to weakness. Purpose terrifies excuses. Because when your why is clear, your how becomes flexible, but your standards remain immovable. Discipline then becomes automatic, not forced, not dramatic, just inevitable. You train when it's inconvenient. You study when it's boring. You work when no one is watching. Not for validation, but for alignment with who you've decided to become. Action compounds. Small, uncelebrated actions stack into unstoppable momentum. One day, people call it luck, but you know the truth. It was the day you stopped negotiating. And from that moment forward, weakness was no longer a voice you obeyed. It became a signal you moved past.
Weakness will try to return when progress becomes invisible. It always does. It shows up in the middle, after the excitement fades, before results arrive. This is where most people quit. not because the dream died, but because patience did. Understand this. Growth is silent before it is seen. Roots form underground long before the tree breaks the surface. And the person you are becoming is being built in hours no one will ever clap for. Abraham Lincoln lost elections, businesses, public reputation. By every visible metric, weakness had a case against him. But Lincoln was anchored to something deeper than outcome. He was anchored to principle. When a man is anchored to principle, storms do not move him, they reveal him. This is where resilience is forged, not in comfort, but in repetition without reward. You wake up tired and still show up. You feel doubt and still execute. You are misunderstood and still remain committed. That is strength. And here is the truth most avoid. Confidence is not something you wait for, it is something you earn. You earn it by keeping promises to yourself when breaking them would be easy. Each time you act despite resistance, your inner voice changes. It stops asking for permission, it starts giving orders. Your inner voice shapes your future because it shapes your actions. And your actions, repeated, become identity. This is why self-respect matters more than self-esteem. Self-esteem is fragile. It depends on outcomes and opinions. Self-respect is unbreakable. It is built through discipline and integrity. When you stop negotiating with weakness, you stop betraying yourself. Gratitude enters not as softness, but as grounding. You become grateful not only for success, but for struggle, because struggle reveals strength you didn't know you had. Adaptability follows. You stop clinging to how things should be and start mastering how things are. Darwin was right. Not the strongest survive, but the most adaptable. You learn relentlessly from failure, from criticism, from silence. Learning keeps you dangerous in a changing world. And then, almost without realizing it, you cross a line. The line where quitting is no longer tempting. The line where excuses sound foreign. The line where weakness knocks and finds no one home. You are no longer trying to be strong. You are strong. Not because life became easy, but because you became decisive. This is the quiet power Dale Carnegie believed in. The power of inner command. The power of mastering yourself before attempting to master the world. And here is the final truth. Simple, unforgiving, and freeing. Your future is not shaped by what you want. It is shaped by what you tolerate. So stop tolerating delay. Stop tolerating doubt. Stop tolerating the version of you that negotiates with fear. Decide once, honor it daily, and let the world adjust. That is how weakness loses its voice. That is how character is born. That is how destiny is claimed.
Because the final battle with weakness is never loud. It does not arrive with chaos, it arrives with comfort. Comfort whispers, "You've done enough." Comfort says, "Rest now, you deserve it." Comfort disguises surrender as self-care and delay as wisdom. This is why discipline must outlive motivation. Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. One fades with mood, the other stands regardless of weather. Look at Edison. Thousands of failures did not weaken him, they clarified him. Each failed attempt stripped away illusion until only truth remained. Weakness argues that failure is proof you should stop. Strength understands failure is proof you are still in the game. And the game is not against the world. It never was. It is against the voice that asks you to shrink when pressure rises. It is against the habit of retreating into distraction when focus demands sacrifice. It is against the comfort of average that pretends to be safety. Purpose does not require permission. It requires alignment. When your actions align with your values, you become calm, even under fire. When they don't, anxiety grows no matter how successful you look. That is why clarity is power. Clarity about who you are becoming, clarity about what you will no longer entertain, clarity about what matters enough to suffer for. Suffering chosen consciously becomes strength. Suffering avoided becomes regret. Weakness wants short-term relief. Strength chooses long-term respect. And here is where vision sharpens. You stop chasing applause and start chasing standards. You measure days not by pleasure, but by progress. You no longer ask, "How do I feel?" You ask, "Did I act in alignment?" This is adulthood of the spirit. Action follows naturally, not rushed, not frantic, but deliberate. Small actions, repeated, ruthlessly consistent. This is how empires are built, not through intensity, but through inevitability. Henry Ford didn't outwork everyone for a week, he outlasted everyone for decades. And when setbacks come, and they will, you don't dramatize them. You adjust, you adapt, you learn. Resilience is not toughness, it is flexibility under pressure. The unbreakable are not rigid, they bend, recalibrate, and return stronger. Learning becomes a lifelong weapon. You read, you observe, you refine. Ego shrinks, capability expands. And one day, quietly, you notice something different. The old triggers no longer control you. The old excuses no longer convince you. The old weakness feels outdated. You don't hate who you were. You thank them for surviving long enough to evolve. Now you move with an inner stillness, a grounded certainty. Not arrogance, not noise, presence. This is the man, this is the woman who cannot be shaken from the inside, because they stopped negotiating. They decided once and honored it daily. And here is the final command, the one that remains when this voice fades. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to be congruent, to think clearly, to act deliberately, to stand firmly, especially when it's hard. Weakness will knock again someday. It always does. But when it does, let it find discipline at the door. Let it find character in the room. Let it find resolve already seated at the table. Because from this point forward, you do not negotiate. You execute.
This channel isn't for everyone. It's for those who choose discipline over excuses.